Hello everyone, my name is Scott Becker and I'm inviting you to the Bottle and Bottega Art Party. We're all here to have fun, so no pressure. I'm going to show you today the ins and outs of being able to paint a picture that we're going to do in 1 hour. Okay, obviously you guys will be in the studio and no pressure, you won't have to worry about that for 2 hours. So basically, let's start. I'm going to be timing it with my stopwatch. So let's go ahead and start the party. I have a canvas on an easel as you have on your tables. The materials we're going to use is you are going to be given some paper plate easels that are going to have 5 basic colors: white, black, blue, yellow, and that's all you get. We also are going to be using 3 basic brushes, 3 basic sizes. We're going to be using a large brush, a medium brush, and a small brush. And we're going to work in layers, okay? Layers of paint in terms of layers of putting in large areas of color, then putting in medium layers of detail, and then fine detail. Each one is going to correspond to the brush. This will be the large brush, large detail, medium brush, and so forth. Small brush, detail. We also have a pencil, which, if you notice, basically it has an eraser. You guys will have a separate eraser to work with. In addition to that, I have actually a palette. As I mentioned, you're going to have 2 paper plates. When you use your paper plate, make sure it's pushed, the pigment, the palette paper plate is pushed behind your canvas. So when you use the pencil and the eraser to sketch out your composition, you don't end up getting the crumbs from the eraser in your paint. Okay? A technique that I don't suggest, at least for this particular session. What else can we talk about here? Well, let's see. Don't worry about the drawing details, because I'm going to actually be working off an image that I created from some photographs I took. And I'm just going to want to roughly sketch it out, not try to do a detailed fine line sketch. Again, we're here to get the basics and, of course, have some fun. So don't worry, no pressure. This is going to be how we're going to work. Okay, a couple things you want to remember is, first of all, we're going to be using acrylics, as I mentioned. And acrylics are very nice because they will dry fast, okay? So we're going to don't want to put a lot of water in them. Occasionally we'll put a little bit. But also, if you happen to get the acrylic on your clothing, what you want to do is very quickly wash it off, because if it's wash it off initially when it's still wet, it'll probably come out of the clothing completely. If you let it dry for a long time, it'll be much harder. So keep that in mind. Okay, you can use soap and water to wash it out, again, if it happens to splatter on your clothing. Okay, okay, so I'm going to start out, first of all, sketching my scene here. And again, you'll see the scene down here in the lower level. I'm going to put that in to the video. Let's go ahead now and start sketching in. And the idea when you sketch in, you'd only want to put in big details where the area color are going to go. So for example, if you look at the image I'm using, across the top, there's kind of a bluish, purplish type of layer that's like a cloud layer. So I'm going to go ahead and just put that in at the top here. Now when you use your pencil, you don't want to be too dark, but you don't want to make it too light. You don't really want the pencil to bleed through the paint, but again, you want to be able to see it. So you're going to basically make sure that you're not pushing too hard to make a very, very dark line, but you're not being like too tender to make a lighter line. Okay, so I have that portion of my image taken care of. On the bottom of my other image, part of my canvas here is essentially like a train car. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. Okay, and this pretty much goes up to here. It'll be a little more detailed than it was in the last one. And again, this is sort of a different part of the car right here. Now again, I'm going to be working with big details. I'm not too worried at this point in terms of being able to get detail in. Now you notice again in our city scene we have a silhouette of buildings, and then again we have little highlights. We are going to be working again from the lightest color to the darkest color, so we don't want to end up going back and forth from going to a darker color back to a lighter color. We may do it for some highlights and things, but for the most part we're not going to be rinsing our brush any more than we absolutely need to, if that at all. So let me finish up over here. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple more details in my train car here. I'm going to put kind of the roof, just kind of in a general sense, and then maybe put a couple windows in just for the heck of it. Okay, just to remind myself maybe where those windows are going to go. So I'll put one over here, and I'm being very rough. I'll worry about being a little less rough when I get down to actually putting in the paint. So here we put a little inside part, that's fine. Then over here, maybe I'll have some little circles or something like that where the other part of the train is. Okay, so that's about as detailed as I want to get. Okay. Now again, just in terms of a rough sense, I'm going to have my horizon line kind of low here, so it's going to be kind of in this area right here. So everything above here, we're going to have our sunrise here, we're going to end up having our glow here, and then of course we're going to have it going from the kind of yellowish to orange, and of course then we're going to go up to the orange, the kind of reddish to blue. Okay, so we have our drawing done, and I want to start out first of all by figuring out what my lightest color is. Okay, and really what it sort of is I have kind of a gray area down here. Okay, now this could be, I could start out and just make the whole thing light gray and then jump to my my yellow or my white or my of course with white, again, if I paint the white in here, I could put a little bit in here just to start with, and then of course go with my yellow all the way through this area here, and then so forth. So let's sort of begin the process. I'm going to start out with my white pigment, and I'm going to go ahead. Now, this will be different because what you'll do is you'll take your brush and you'll go to your main palette and you'll get a little glob of paint, and I would suggest that you use the corner of the brush rather than dip it all the way in and try to use it like a shovel and scoop it out. Just use the corner of the brush, especially if you want to be getting two different colors. Okay, so right now I'm going to put some white down, and again this would be on your second paper plate, which would work as your actual mixing palette. So I'm going to put some white out here. There's some white. Okay, and since I'm using tubes, I'm going to go ahead and put the cap back on put the cap back on the tube, and now I'm going to take some black, and what I'll do before I even use the black, I'm just going to dip, my brush is completely dry, I'm just going to dip the bottom part a little bit, and I'm going to spread out my white. Okay, so I'm spreading out my white on the palette here. Again, I'm in the light here, so there you go. Okay, and what I'll do in just this area here where the sun is, before I do anything else, I'll just put a little white in there. Now it already has the gessoed canvas, and I could kind of use that, but that's okay. I'm just going to put in the white there. Now I'm going to go and put in the gray for the train car. So let me pull that tube out, and of course they're all okay. There's my white, and again I have it to the side. There it is. It's hiding. So what you would probably do, that I'm going to do a little different here, is I'm just going to take a little bit of black, almost next to nothing, okay, and I'm going to put it right on this side. So, and even that's too much. Let's see. Hold on one second. Put the cap back on the tube. So I have just a little smidgen of black there, okay, which I really don't want much more than that. So I'm going to take just a little corner, okay, and now I'm going to go in and see how just a little bit really affects that white, okay, and that's what I'm going to use now in terms of my lower section there. So let's go ahead and put that in. The idea is that you want to kind of use, when you apply the color, you want to work in terms of long strokes. So let's see. Make sure, by the way, you put out enough pigment. I'm being kind of a little parsimonious with the pigment. As I mean stingy, okay, with the pigment I'm putting down. Why? Because I know that I only have a few tubes, few tubes of paint. You guys have all sorts of paint that you can use as far as you can always get a little bit more paint from our bottles. And again, you have paint to spare and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and just get in here and really make sure that it's smooth. Again, what you can do to make sure that you have an even coating is you go across and then you go across the other direction, and long strokes. That's what you want to do, long stroke. So there you go. And the one little corner in the easel, kind of tough to get, not a problem. Let's see again. There we go. That looks pretty even and so forth to me. Okay, so that looks good. By the way, as far as our time now, we are about 11 minutes in, so we're doing pretty good. Okay, we've already got our composition sketched out, and of course we're starting to apply our color. Now here I want a little maybe darker, so I'm going to go in and just get a little more black and mix in a little more black in that one area there. So let's see. Now one thing too, again, as I told you, you got to watch the water. You don't want to put too much water in, but this acrylic, especially when it's a little thinned out, will dry very quickly. So you want to be sure that you don't end up basically having it dry out. Again, you guys are going to be adding a lot more color to it. I'm kind of working with a limited amount. So again, let me get a little more black in there and I'll show you what I'm doing. See, notice that was the previous gray color. Now this is has a lot more gray, a lot more black in it. So I'm going to use that just to paint in to this area here. Okay. And again, I'm working around my easel a little bit because my easel is, it's got like a little lip there. Okay. So let me go there. Again, long strokes work really nice. So that's my train car so far. I'm not going to worry about actually putting in too much more in terms of details. In reality, of course, down here, I could kind of, since this is dry enough, and it looks like it's kind of drying, I could put in some of the masking for the other part of the car. Let me go ahead and do that. We'll see if this works. It should. So basically, let's see. The car sort of has a, again, this is something I do with the detail brush, but since I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and do this part right now. So let's put in like a little area here, and I'm going to go across. And since it's wet, it's really not applying. Let me go ahead and put the rest of that black in with make it a darker gray. Okay. And probably I'm going to have a little trouble with my yellow. We'll see. And I'm going to go ahead and put an area here. Okay, so what did I just wanted to show you now. You guys will probably make this mistake, right? You're going to end up going for a darker color. We'll see how that works out. Okay. Put that in, put this in. And let's put another another area here for the window. Okay, that looks good. So we actually built in some of that. Now normally you do that with that darker area, you do that with your medium brush. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm not even going to dip it in the water. I'm going to go ahead and wipe the pigment off the brush here. Get as much of it off as I can off. Okay, it's still going to obviously kind of work into my yellow, my orange, but again, I'm going to put that on a little thicker anyhow, so that's what we'll do. Alright, so next thing I want yellow. Let me get the rag out of the way here. Okay. Okay, so that's what I've got on my palette thus far. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put out a nice amount of yellow here. Okay. And once again, I put the caps on, so I don't want it to dry out. Okay, so let's see what happens when we mix here. Well, I wiped out a lot of the color, so I lucked out. Okay, and I'm just going to put that raw yellow right on the canvas. Okay, so remember again that our yellow area, again, yellow and red make orange. So I'm going to go all the way across, except in this area here where I painted a little bit of white. So let's start from the edge. Let's actually start across the top. I don't want to go lower than that. And again, long strokes. Long strokes, nice long strokes. Make sure you apply good. Again, you don't want to. You want to maybe make sure that your yellow is not too thick. Again, I'm using it essentially raw. Mine's got a nice consistency. They're nice fresh colors. If yours just have like a little too much, how would you say, they're kind of bundling up, or they're kind of they look a little thick. You could just tip the edge of the brush in a little bit of water, but I would be very, very careful that you don't put too much water on it. So right now, again, I want to get that yellow section in there, and we really want to get it nice and smooth. And right here, we're actually going to use the detail brush and the medium brush to put in our buildings. So don't worry about the buildings because it's actually going to go over the yellow. So here we go. Using a nice amount of yellow. And again, doing okay. The gray component, I wiped it pretty much out of the brush. So that worked out good. I didn't put it in water, didn't rinse it. Okay, so there we go with that. Let's see from this side. Again, I'm trying not to block the canvas here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and let's again keep that arc. Use the edge of the brush if you need to really kind of push into that canvas. There you go. And let's see, now it's probably about 15 minutes now. Let's see. So, yep, it's actually about 16, 17 minutes. So we're doing pretty good so far. All right, what do I want to do here now? Well, I'm going to worry about this last, as far as like where I have my buildings. I'll put that in black. But I want to get orange in there. Okay, in fact, just for the heck of it, I'm going to put just a little more yellow a little closer, because I want to end up having a sort of blending type of effect that's going to go from the sun, okay, into my orange. Okay, so there's the white part. I'm going to actually go right up close to that. And let's see, do I need some more yellow? Well, yeah, I suppose I could put just a little more yellow out. And I'm using raw yellow now. I'm not mixing it all yet. Okay. So there we go. A little more yellow. Make sure you're going on the flat part of the brush. You see how it's starting to build up on the bottom there? So I'm going real flat there to get that all on my easel. Now your easel is going to be, your paper plate easel is going to be a little different because it's paper, and it's going to tend to soak up. It's going to tend to soak up moisture. So consider that too. In other words, you'll probably notice that your paints are going to dry on the edges of the globs or the glubs or whatever you want to call them a little faster. Now I want to end up, I don't want to put my color in the middle here, but I want to start brushing in a little bit. Okay? Brushing into the center a little bit. And of course I'm vibrating because I got a nice double canvas here. I'm only, as you notice, I'm only using half. Again, that's what I've done in the previous demos. Again, try to keep, at least initially, try to keep your it's almost like a dry brush right now, see? I'm sitting there. We're going to be working back and forth a little bit, but I want to stay away from the middle. But I'm just kind of dry brushing into the middle a little bit, so we're going to eventually end up blending that a little bit more. Don't put any water in there, because it'll just kind of get a little too, it'll end up dripping across, or it'll end up, it won't give you the kind of effect you want. So just kind of working that in there, again, going across. Okay, and hopefully I want to keep my yellow a little bit wet, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put out a little bit of red, and just for the heck of it, I'll recharge my yellow a bit on my palette, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so once again, here's my yellow. Let me get it in the light so you can see it. Okay, and now I'm going to just take a little bit of orange, a little bit of red rather, to make orange. Okay, you can see that. Alright. Make sure you get it across the brush so you don't have little yellow spots on it. And I'm going across like this to get it the color I want. Okay, and again, we're going to leave the red alone there. It's getting pretty close to what I want. Okay, so now I'm going to actually go across the top and over the side. So let's go ahead and let's start putting in our orange. And the idea is we want to sweep across, okay? Just keep sweeping like this. Get the okay, again, I'm a little lean on my color, which again, I would probably have a little more color to spare. I would end up making sure to put more and more color on there. I'm going to probably do that a little bit progressively, where there I would do it in a little more immediate sense. So you see here I'm using long strokes, and I got to go around the edge here now. And again, I'm kind of working it into the yellow part a little bit. Whoop. And get it down. Again, it's, you know, we're painting long strokes. We're painting into, not across, into our yellow area here. Trying to saturate that in there. Okay. So we're kind of creating variations of orange right on our canvas. Again, I'm a little dry here. So what I'll do, a little more yellow out. This is again labor intensive, or labor intensive in terms of, I should say, material intensive. So I'm going to take a little more red and go ahead and mix that out. As you can see. And again, you want to make it look like, you don't want to see the brush strokes except for maybe radiating out from the yellowish area. So I'm trying real hard to smooth these guys out. Oops. There we go. And at a certain point when I got as much pigment on there as I can, start getting dry, now I'm starting to actually work it in towards the center of the yellow area there. Basically going across, putting in darker and darker red here. And we're working towards the top here. Pretty soon I'm going to make kind of a darker layer. Okay, so there we're getting kind of a more of a darker red on the edge. Put a little bit more around here so it's going around the corona. Okay, that looks pretty good. More red. And again, I'm going to build it up. And now I want a little bit darker still. So how am I going to get the red a little darker? That's about what it's giving me on the canvas. I'm going to go ahead now and put a little black in there. I still got my white here. I'm going to use that at some point. And again, you would use the edge of the brush just to bring a little bit in and mix it accordingly. And I'm actually put too much black. Okay, let's see. So let me get rid of that. So I'm going to basically try to put the red over here. That's better. That's good. So now I have like a little darker red, which is what I'm aiming for. I actually wiped off. You know, if you put a little too much pigment on your brush, rather than wash it, you can use your rag to wipe it off. Okay, so here what I did, I wiped it off, wiped the pigment off, and it works pretty good. It gets a little bit darker. That's what I'm looking to do anyhow. So there's my darker color. There's going to be a transition we're going to make. Okay. And again, I don't want to get it down here too much, because basically what's going to happen is I got my color kind of worked out already. I got a little thing here. I'll use my finger to kind of smooth it off of there. It doesn't matter because I got to put some more detail in there when I get to that point. Okay. So I got kind of like a median area here. And again, I'm using real kind of light horizontal strokes. And now I'm going to get some blue out. And I'm going to put a little red in there on the side. So there's my blue. Okay. And again, I'll take a little bit of red and mix it up. Keep it thick. Okay. And let's make a little bit of a reddish of that color on this side. So this will be my darker one. Put a little white in there, just for the heck of it. It's really not lightening too much. Let's go ahead and do it this way. There we go. I got it now. Alright, so you can see I got a little lighter type of blue, got a darker blue. I'll go from the light to the darker. So I'm going to go up here and start putting in my blue. So this is going to be kind of the dark, cloudy area. One thing you notice, basically, I'm using kind of a very rough canvas, probably rougher than you guys are going to use. And you can see kind of that it's really taking the color. You really got to soak that color in there. Now this is going to change from canvas to canvas like anything else. There's qualities of canvas. Again, right now I'm dealing with less pigment, so I'm kind of being a little more concerned about just in terms of like how much pigment is there. By the way, so I've kind of smoothed it in. I'm going to use now my darker blue. Okay, I might even put a little black in there. And I'll put that right above here so it's even darker still. And again, light strokes going across. There, we got some nice dark blue up there. There we go. And now get a little black. Try to salvage some black from my other little area here, and put that up top. Now, if you want to give some feeling of like cloudiness, again, you can throw a little bit of that sort of thing up there. Okay, so I have my top area done. Okay, now I have my silhouette to do. Okay, we are about 30 minutes in. Okay, so we're doing pretty good. All right, I'm going to go now and just for the heck of it, I'm going to wipe this off a bit because I'm going to go for more for pure black or thereabouts. And I'll put enough there hopefully that we can do this. All right, so there I got my black. Go smooth it out. And now I'm going to go ahead and work in this area here. Okay. So I want to make sure I load that brush up so I get that edge pretty good. I want to keep it straight. And on this side, I know I'm blocking here. It was humid the other day. It feels a little dry today. I don't know. It doesn't seem to want to take the color. It seems like it's kind of dried out here. So I'm going to basically carefully go along. Now I can clean this up when I get to that point. I can clean this up with my detail brush, kind of as a last thing. But I'm going to go ahead now and just go along the edge of my horizon. Okay, there we go. Whoop, almost. So now I'm going to go on the top here of my train car. Make sure you get the edge of the canvas a little bit so there's not a white area that's kind of lingering there. And again, I'm going to be a little rough on top of the car. That's okay, because again, I have a detail brush. I'll go in later at the end and take care of that. Alright, so that was pretty quick. I got all my areas in. Now I could, at this point, since I already have black on the brush, I'm sort of can make a decision in terms of the silhouette of my buildings if I want to go ahead and use my large brush and block it out, okay, or if I want to do that with my medium brush or whatever. Well, I might as well use with the pigment a little bit. I'll do the larger parts. Okay, so I'll load up the edge of the brush and let's look over and see what we got. So I'll go ahead and maybe put a little building in here. Okay, so there's one little building. Let's put another little building. Now, as far as scale, consider that the larger you make your buildings, the closer that the building is going to look. So that's one thing I want to consider too. Okay, I don't want to end up making them too large, but I don't want to go too small either. So again, I'm just kind of blocking out where I'm going to have buildings in terms of like the silhouette here. So again, let's see, I'm trying to salvage what pigment I may. Okay, so right here is where the tall building goes. So we'll go ahead and block that in there. Again, we'll refine it, not a problem. Okay, we'll take care of that. Up here on the edge, just a little touch, just to make it look a little flatter. Okay, now maybe some low buildings with chimneys on them or something like that. Okay, so let me just touch that top of that other one. So down here I'll have like another building, kind of block it in, maybe put like some surface detail up there, that type of thing. Okay, I'm going to put some more buildings across. I'm trying to keep from using any more black here. Let me see if I can get it off the top edge of the brush a little bit. So again, here's a nice big fat building we'll put in here, and so forth. Okay, put another one here, maybe right in front of the sun. Maybe another one here. So again, I can look at this and kind of judge how I want to end up having this work out in terms of like, I'm going to actually start working now with my medium brush a little more. Okay, so we're pretty much done with this brush. Our other brushes are clean. I'm going to put this in water now. Okay, and actually, I think what I'll do, since I don't want to contaminate the water, before I go ahead and do that, I'm going to go ahead and just dip it in the water without brushing it around so the water will stay clean. And then I'm just going to see if I can get the pigment out of it. Okay? So maybe I want to keep that water clean for whatever else I do. But again, I'll just put it in there very gently without really rubbing it around. And I'll sit there if I can see if I can get some of the pigment out in my rag. Okay, kind of like you have to sort of judge what'll be work best for you. Okay, so I'll put that on the side. Okay, let me do one thing here too, just for the heck of it. All right, so what else can I do here? Well, again, I want to go in my medium brush now and put some details in. And if you look at you look over here, down here at our image, okay, what can I do? Well, I could put some lighter features in there, okay, but that's darker. I can go in here and blend this out a little bit, okay. Again, I could you start using that white that I have on this side, maybe blend out there. And then, of course, I can put in some sort of cloudy effects in there, too. So let's start out with the white. Oop, I guess the white is no longer there, so we'll put out a little bit more. I just forgot I used it. So I'll put a little bit of white out. Okay, and again, what I want to do, I'm just going to use it to blend. Okay, so just kind of light strokes, just kind of blending out a bit, not too far into the yellow, just a little bit. Okay, and if I want, I can go back and forth a little bit just to kind of even it out. Okay, so now I want to get some orange going again. Here's some red. There I have some more yellow. So I'm going to mix out with a little more red to get that orange. Or get some orange. There we go. That was pretty easy. Alright, that looks good. And now I'm just going to sort of stroke across, getting some texture. And again, this thing is really vibrating on me here. I got too much on the top of the brush. There we go. I just kind of wiped it off. That's good. Alright, that's good. When I get most of the pigment off it, I'm going to go in a little deeper and try to basically take those, get a little more blending in terms of my circle. Whoops, went a little too far. Not a problem, just smooth it out. No biggie. Alright. So now, I got an area up here, it's a little darker with the red. I'm going to take a little bit of blue. Let's see if I got blue that's still working for me here. I'm trying to make it look a little more like a darker red. And I'm going to go ahead up top here and put that in. And whoever's calling, you're going to have to wait. Okay, so I'm putting the red in here. Probably a telemarketer. Oh yeah. I got a new phone, so what does the new phone do? It just basically keeps making noise even when I don't want it to. Isn't that fun? So I'm going to put in some little highlights up here just to kind of get a little more, of a there we go, kind of like an intermediate area. That's kind of where the cloud, the big dark cloud, is sort of kind of, see, I'm putting like couple little details with the medium brush, okay, on the top there. I'm not gonna, don't push it too much. I have a tendency to overdo things, but that looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna go ahead back into the white, and let's see if I can maybe put a kind of like a little low clouds with a couple long clouds here. Now, a lot of times, depending on how much you're of a, what would you call it? How much of a area that you have that you're working with, okay? Let me put a little bit of white on that too, by the way. There we go. Okay, so let me just a little less there. So I got kind of a highlight from the cloud. One thing you want to consider now too, I'm pretty much ready to go. Got this kind of the way I want it. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to start working in details with my buildings. Okay, and of course, one thing you'll notice is that if you have a sunset, it's going to probably reflect on the edge of the building a little bit. So for example, maybe on this edge of the building, it might be reflecting a little of the sunlight. Okay, so I'm going to go just on the side that's towards the sun. Okay, I'm going to put like a little bit of a change in terms of it's not all black and silhouette. It's got just a little area there that's kind of glowing. Here, it might have it on both sides. Okay, here again on the other side. Okay. And we're going to continue with this. Again, already, if you notice, my colors are pretty much dried out. Okay. Another aspect too is if you see on the bottom here, you'll notice that it actually has highlights in terms of where there's lights on, okay? In terms of like maybe street lamps or this or that. So I'm going to take a little of the orange and start putting some little details like that in there. Okay, so I have some orange over here, again, medium brush. Okay, and just as if it's maybe the tops of some roofs or something that it's actually reflecting off of. Oops. Another thing to consider on the top of my train, since that's metal, it might be reflecting some color as well. So maybe what I'll do is I'll take and make a line here that shows the reflection of the sun. Okay, and probably since that's an edge, it would probably come around there a little bit, probably come around there a little bit. Smooth it out. Okay, so we got little reflections on top of there. We got some clouds in there. Okay, let me go ahead and just throw in a little more pigment here on these edges, so it's kind of reflecting a bit. You can actually go down below here. It kind of makes it look a little more realistic, as far as if the bottom of the building is actually in the dark shadowy area. So that's what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, so now we'll say I'm okay with the medium brush, and now I'm going to go in and clean things up with my small brush. So first thing I could do is I could go ahead and use the black, but I want to create some highlights in there too. So basically what am I going to do? I'm going to take my white out first and put some white there, and I'm going to start with that. So there I have some white. Okay, hereabouts I would be talking about some of the fun programs that Bottle and Bottega offers in terms of different party type of environments. They have the baby bump, they have the paint your pet, they have a whole variety of other things that party type things or groups. They also have a variety of different discount plans, again, sort of a loyalty type of thing for previous customers. Things you might want to be aware of in terms of planning your next night out or your next event. So here I'm going to go ahead and put in some little things as if they're like windows on the side. Okay, that's kind of far in the background. I'll put like just a little bit of a line there maybe. Here now, since that's kind of where I have the middle of my sun, I'm going to paint that a little further down, like it's glowing over a little bit. Okay, and since I did it on one side, I'll do it on the other side too a little bit. So. Okay. All right. So now I want to paint, again, a little darker details. I'm not ready to go to the black quite yet. But I'm going to squeeze out a little bit of black and make some gray. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put in a couple details on my train. So let me smooth out my white here. And I'll take a little bit of smidgen of the black and create a gray. Now obviously this is a small brush, detail brush, so it's not going to hold as much pigment, so you got to make enough. And now I'm going to go ahead and paint in a couple details. So right here I'm going to paint around the edge of my window. Let's put a detail in. Okay, and I'll do the same thing here. Okay, and I want to put like a little area there. Let's get a little more dark in there. Go ahead and create like a little bit of some detail over here. I'm painting in some of my windows here. Okay, one more to go. And again, put in maybe even a couple more details in other parts. And I'll be a little sloppy, that's okay. You can always paint more details in after it dries. So I'm trying to, by the way, let's see what our time is while I'm thinking about it. We're about 55 minutes and we're getting close to done here. Okay, so that's not bad. And again, another thing that I'm not doing that you could do, because I'm so completely into getting this done on time, is you might want to consider moving away from your canvas a bit. Let's go ahead and pull back. So you might want to basically see what it looks like from a distance, okay? And then maybe go a little closer and see what's going on in terms of a little closer view here. So let me go ahead. I'm just about done. Not much left to do. I can go in here now, touch up a couple things if I want to. Actually, I don't mind that this stuff is sort of not what would you say, real hard edge. Because guess what? In the background, when you see something and it's kind of indistinct, it's morning, it's misty, it's going to look a little edgy. Of course, I could go in here if I wanted to and very meticulously paint all these edges with my detail brush. But we're going to call this a wrap here. Got a little long on this one. The others I've been doing about 50 minutes. This took me about 55. So I hope you enjoyed our painting session today. I hope you'll join me at Bottle and Bottega, and we're going to have an art party. By the way, I didn't toast this time with coffee. I don't have any wine with me, but next time we'll all be toasting and have a lot of fun. So thank you, and see you soon.